Okay, welcome back, fight fans. What's really good? Today, I will be giving my early predictions and breakdown for UFC Fight Night Yan versus Goblin. Now, since I opened this channel, I've been denigrating the state of these Fight Night cards and just how poorly stacked they are. I probably sound like I enjoy complaining just for the sake of it, and maybe I do get off on it a little bit if I'm honest. So I'm grateful that for once I can actually take a different tone here and say that this is what a Fight Night card should really look like. We've got loads of great matchups and value on this card, so stay tuned. Less so on the prelims, which is what I'm going to be going into now. Now I'm coming off a really great ratio from last weekend on the Jones versus Garn card, where I went 12-2, pulling up my ratio to 57-23 and roughly 71% of correct picks. So let's try and keep this going. It's going to be a tough one on this card. As always, like and subscribe. Your support is always greatly appreciated. Alright, the first fight on the card is contested at welterweight between Carlston Harris and Abubakar Nurmagomedov. Now, normally when you see the name Nurmagomedov, it usually makes for a pretty easy pick. However, Abu is what I would describe as the runt of the litter. Well, one of the runts. We'll get onto the other one later on. His record of 17-3 looks impressive on paper, but we know how the Nurmagomedovs love scrapping with cab drivers and bus boys to pad their record, so take this one with a pinch of salt. Harris is coming off a TKO loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov, but we just saw what he did to Jeff Neal over the weekend, so again, I've said this before, don't read too much into that. Now, the stats do tell us that Harris is a pure striker, but I rewatched his fight with Vieira at Brave, and his ground game is pretty solid. So I think he's going to be good enough to neutralize Abu's takedown attempts, which frankly are not that great. I think Harris is going to light up Abu on the feet and knee Abu's head into orbit when he realizes he wants none of the stand-up and dives in for a takedown. This is a pretty risky pick, but I just don't think Abu is very good. I'm going to take Harris by decision, I think. This is another risky one, but I'm edging Bruno Silva. Tyson Nam is very good and is coming off a brutal TKO win against Ode Osborne. He destroyed him. I just think that stylistically, this is not a great matchup for him at this stage of his career. It actually surprised me when I found out that Nam is 39 years old. I thought he was a bit younger than that. He is obviously quite experienced, but I think Nam has found more success against strikers that will get into a firefight with him. And I think Silva is going to try and avoid that altogether and try to drag him down and make it ugly. There is a chance that Nam looks as impressive as he did in his last performance, comes out, cracks him on the chin. He does have really explosive power, but I expect Silva to be aware of the danger and to stay safe and wait for the chance to take him down. Nam doesn't even really have a terrible takedown defense, but I just think compared to Silva, it's a bit of a mismatch. Personally, I'm going to be avoiding this one as a bet because I can see clear paths for both men. I just have to favor the younger guy who has a clear ground game advantage. I'm going to take another decision here with Nam winning the first round and possibly dropping Silva at points and Silva recuperating and taking the last two. Bet this one at your peril. Oh, this is a really tough one. I've gone back and forth on this one quite a bit. Now, both men are coming off decision losses, which adds to the intrigue here. I was pretty high on Henry for a while, as his striking looked very crisp and he was catching bodies and looking great doing it. His last performance, however, against Rafael Assunsao, while that guy is a vet, was very, very disappointing. He was the heavy favorite in that one, and you should be beating that old geezer at this stage of his career. And Henry got decisively beaten in that fight. Now, Graveley himself is coming off a loss against Javid Basharat, who is very good. And he actually managed to look quite decent in stages of that fight against a very accomplished and surging contender. I've literally gone back and forth on this one over and over. And if you asked me yesterday, I would have picked one guy. If you asked me today, I would have picked the other guy. Right now, I'm leaning Henry. I rewatched his fight with Barcelos recently, who is very tough. And Henry was very good at investing a lot of teeps to the body to frame his strikes before loading up. And Javid did that a lot to upset Graveley's rhythm and break him down. So I think there's a clear path to victory for Henry in that there. Both men are so evenly matched and the odds should be a lot closer, which is tempting me to go with Graveley. But I think Henry's takedown defense is good enough to keep the smaller Graveley at bay. I'm calling this one a scrappy split decision. I think it's going to be a very nice fight. Both men are going to chuck bombs. I think this is a tough one because both men have that dog in them. And I expect this one to be fun. I just would not bet on it if I were you. Having said that, I'm slightly favoring Henry. I'm going to take soft body JJ Aldrich on this one. Lipski has fought some very good names and has been competitive. But JJ's stand-up volume has really improved. And she just has a much better takedown game. This fight is going to be more like softcore porn than high-level MMA. JJ is going to engage her in a stand-up battle at first, wait for the right moment, take her down, and then just dry hump her on the ground. Now, this might sound quite exciting for some of you, but it definitely won't be, despite Lipski being quite hot for a fighter. JJ simply has just beaten better opponents, and I think she'll have too much grip for Lipski, who seems to come unstuck whenever the level goes up. Now, JJ has beaten Poliana Viana, who is looking excellent at the moment. She beat Demopoulos, who I never really liked, but very impressive last performance for her. And she also beat Gillian Robertson, who, despite the fact she looks like a crackhead, is so dangerous. So I'm going to take JJ to win by sub. She's usually somebody who goes to decision, but I think she's going to find a submission here. Lipski got knocked out as well in her last fight, so that does not fill me with any confidence in her. So yeah, I'm going to take Aldrich to get the win. Alright, easy. Bautista is going to fuck Cannetti up. Now, I'm a little bit skeptical because Bautista lost to Trevin Jones, but that was 3 or 4 fights ago. And despite the fact that Trevin Jones looked really trash against Cody last weekend. Cannetti, on the other hand, is coming off 2 wins, but he was fighting Randy Costa, who is trash, despite looking like an underwear model and looking like he should be good. Horrible fighter. And he also beat Chris Moutinho, who fights like he's had a lobotomy. But Bautista in his last 3 or 4 fights has looked like an absolute axe murderer. And for me, this is the lock of the card. I think Bautista catches Cannetti when they trade with a stiff right, follows him down to the ground and snatches a limb or neck, and he makes Cannetti tap. The UFC clearly want to take the old man out to pasture, and they are sending Bautista to carry out the execution. On the other hand, if Bautista loses this, he needs to be fired. I can't be more clear than that. Alright, this is one on the prelims that I think has really good value, and this is one I would make a play on. I'm taking Dumas, or Dumas. He's just got that killer instinct. Now, middleweight is a division I have so much contempt for, as I think pretty much everyone outside the top 5 is so unskilled. Dumas, for a middleweight though, is very well rounded. I watched a few of his kickboxing fights, and he has some really vicious leg kicks, which he often uses to soften up opponents and force them to shoot on him. And then when they do, he has surprisingly good sprawls and a very accomplished ground game. He transitions really well. I've seen him take the back very slickly. He's just a good fighter. He basically has a game which is designed to dismantle and exhaust his opponents. And yeah, I think they're giving him a nice layup here. Now, he has tattoos on his face, which would indicate to most that he's a complete moron. But I see it as him being so committed to the fight game that ruining any other job prospects he might have isn't a concern for him. Fremd is fine, but you can't lose to Trey Shongor and expect to have success against a killer like Dumas. I'm confident in a Dumas finish here. I reckon second round, he chews up the legs in the first and makes Fremd wish he wasn't in there. Oh boy, what a great fight this is. Potential fight of the night here. Fantastic matchmaking. I can't believe this is on the undercard. This is crazy. Any fight night card this year, this would have belonged on the main card and quite high up it. Now, if you look at Davey Grant's record, it looks pretty crappy on paper. When you look at the names and the level of fights he's had, it does become more forgivable. He lost to Adrian Yanez, which I actually thought he won in a split decision. And Yanez is a killer, an absolute sniper. That was a great fight. He also took Marlon Vera to a decision, and that man is up at the top of the division. He's fighting Corey Sandhagen next in a title eliminator, so that shows how high his stock is. He also beat Martinez, who's fighting on the main card, who I really like. His last win against Smolka was perhaps less impressive, I suppose, as it took him to the third to get that done, and Smolka's not that good. And on the other hand, Assunsao is a legend, and has literally been fighting the best of the best at bantamweight for well over a decade. Just have a glance at his last 15. He's literally fought the who's who in the division and has one of the most impressive resumes on the roster. It's literally RDA levels. Now, both men, as is often the case in what I consider to be the best division in the UFC, are very well rounded. I'd say Assunsao is slightly better in the grappling, with Grant the slightly more clinical striker. But fuck it, I'm going to go with my heart on this one, and I'm going to take Davey Boy. But this is going to be squeaky bum throughout. Assunsao beat Henry, who I reluctantly picked earlier up the card. And I don't know, I just think his skid before that was very, very worrying. I think he lost 4 in a row before he got that win against Henry. And I feel like Grant is basically at the point of his career now where it's do or die. I think he's going to find a way to get this done. I reckon this could go to a split. I don't have much confidence on this. And again, as a gambler, I'd stay away from this. But this is guaranteed to be a fantastic fight. Right, bottom feeder heavyweight time. I don't want to pick on this one, I'll be honest. So I'm actually going to do something I've never done on this channel. And I'm not picking either of these men. I've gone through all the film I can find on both of them, and I just can't come to a conclusion. All I could work out was that neither of these men should be in the UFC. If I'm being honest, I'm leaning Bursky, but I could not be less confident. I'd maybe side with him just because he seems to have fought against guys with better records, and he was robbed in his last fight against Boudet, despite outstriking him by more than 50 significant strikes. Avoid this one at all costs. It's a coin toss and not in a fun way. I can see nothing in my analysis of these men to confidently pick either, so I'm just going to pretend this fight isn't happening. Alright, now, just to clarify for those who are gambling and looking for some good picks on this one, I did move to an impressive 27 and 23 on the year. However, with a better stacked card comes greater risk, and for this prelim card, I can literally say I'm only confident in 3 of these fights. I think Bautista is a lock. I think JJ Aldrich should win pretty easily, and I think Dumas has great value against Fremd. Outside of that, I have strong reasons to go either way on every other fight. So if you're betting, I'd take those 3 and avoid the rest. Right, I'll see you tomorrow when I'll break down an excellent looking main card. For a fight night, this is stacked, and I can't wait to break that down. Have a great Monday, and yeah, I'll see you in a bit.